I'm Danny Aiello, and you're watching Comedy Matters TV.
Hey, this is Jeffrey Gurian here for Comedy Matters TV at the Soho International Film Festival with my old pal Danny Aiello. How are you, Danny?
Hi, Jeff. I'm fine. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's great to see you tonight.
It's unusual for me to be at a festival I generally don't attend, but I fell in love with this guy, a heterosexual love.
Right. Yes, of course.
John Gallagher, the guy who runs the place, and he sort of forced me with a knife to come, and here I am.
Under duress.
Under total duress. Man.
John Gallagher is a great guy.
He is. I had the pleasure of meeting him recently, and I really didn't know him that well, but I was given privy to many of the things, people that he's sort of done Q&A questioning sessions with, and they were just amazing. I mean, I had him at home last night watching all of his interviews with them, and he was great. And I don't particularly like doing these things, but because he made it look so easy for those people he was talking to, I said I had to become a part of that. Well, and really he's a great guy. And we're going to show some of my clips to let people know what I've done in the business, which is very infinitesimal. But
which would probably take infinitesimal. Are you kidding? It would probably take 3 nights to show all of your stuff.
No, it's only 90 movies. There's not
only
that
90
many.
movies. That's all. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But you know what? I bet a lot of your fans don't know about your connection to comedy. Because you started, if I remember correctly, you started working at the Improv many years ago as a bouncer. Isn't that correct? When Bud Friedman first opened?
Well, he recognized my talent and he made me a bouncer. And then I became a part-time MC, of course. But
exactly,
I was there for a couple of years, but I really didn't do anything with comedy because it was something, a monologist was nothing that I ever wanted to be, but it exposed me in a certain way that made it possible for me to then begin to become an actor. Because people who would come into the place to see the comedians would see me, some of them were movie makers, and they would ask me if I would do a role, and I said, what the hell am I going to do? I'm not an actor. So I became an actor simply by people asking me to participate, and I did,
Isn't that an amazing thing?
Very lucky.
Well, you're so talented, but it's an amazing thing. People must have seen something in you that you didn't see in yourself.
And I still don't see it in myself, but apparently some people did. And it's great. When I look back at it now and I reflect on all those things that occurred, it was very difficult at that time because I had 3 children, no employment, and Bud Friedman, who was the proprietor of the improvisation, well, Bud paid me about $150 a week. Now, with 3 children, that's pretty difficult to live by, but it happened.
Even in those days.
Yeah, well, I was the union president at the Greyhound Bus Union. I represented all the drivers throughout the United States. I was the youngest in the country at the time.
And didn't you used to call out the stops also?
That's why. You want to hear that, don't you? He's soliciting this.
I remember that.
Philadelphia, Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, Wheeling, Columbus, Indianapolis, Terre Haute, Effingham, St. Louis, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, Denison, and Dallas, Texas. This coach connects in Jersey City for Newark, Mount Clair, Denville, Dover, Bud Lake, Hackettstown, Stroudsburg, Mount Pocono, Tobyhanna, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Clark, Summit, Nicholson, Halstead, Great Bend, Binghamton, Cortland, Ithaca, Geneva, Canandaigua, Pittston, Towanda, Waverly, Elmira, Corning, Bath, Batavia, Hornell, Mount Morris, and Buffalo.
That is amazing. And that's after 10 years.
No, it's a lot longer than 10 years.
I know.
My mother used to say, Danny, if acting don't work out, you can always go back to bus casually, But it was a very important part of my life. But I lost that job as the union president, and I was sort of floundering around, and that's when Bud Friedman gave me the job. He knew I needed one because the court fees I was going through as a result of being sued by the company, Greyhound, it cost us a lot, so I was broke. I had nothing. So
why were you being sued by Greyhound?
Well, because there was a wildcat strike. The wildcat strike, they blamed me for happening. Of course, I didn't call the strike. They just went out on their own, being that I was removed from office pending an investigation, and my union people didn't accept that, so they started ruining buses on the thruway, and they did it under my name. So at the time, I was sued for $500,000. And I could have fought it, probably won, but I became very disillusioned with the job at that point. And even if I was in some way exonerated, I didn't want to go back. It just tainted me in terms of how I felt about the company and the union that represented that company. You know, it was a bad time, but it turned out to be a great time. Because had that not happened, well, the most I could have been there was probably the president of the International Union eventually, and I'm sure that would have happened because I was well thought of and very young. But then it opened for me this other door of acting, which is what I've been doing, and now I'm singing, you know, all that crap.
Yes, of course. But if you were the president of the union, they wouldn't be having this tonight.
No, here's what I'd be doing if I was the president. I might be in jail by now.
I'm sure.
That's just a gesture I used to do with puppets, you know. I don't want anyone to...
He's not even sure what that means.
I have no idea.
I don't either, as a matter of fact. I saw it once at a friar's roast.
Did I do something? Was it terrible that I
Not
just
at all.
did?
Not at all.
I don't realize who you're watching.
No, absolutely
The hand
not.
gestures, the puppet things I used to do, you know, I had my...
I think what a lot of people don't know too is you own the comedy club. You've always had an affinity for
I didn't own the comedy
Upstairs?
club.
Oh, no?
Danny's Upstairs was simply something I did because I loved watching comedy and comedians. Not that I love them so much, but they're great. And I know it is the most difficult part of this entertainment industry,
right.
as you know,
Yes,
to be
of
a
course,
comedian, to be up there to get laughs and live by laughs or die by not getting laughs is a very difficult thing to do. So I think at the very beginning, the inception of my idea of being in the improvisation, I thought, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. It's not what I want to do. Mm-hmm. But I loved watching it, and I enjoyed those comedians that I met, and I met them all at the improvisation. So at To the Pastas in Hoboken it was about 6 years ago.
I remember, I was at the opening.
Right, you were, Jeffrey. And it was a great club. And I said to myself, let me open up it was a restaurant already. So I said to Fortunato Di Natale, who owned To the Pasta, I said, why don't we put a comedy club upstairs? So I get to know now about 150 comics, and they come in, they work for very short money. Yeah. But it's an opportunity for them to come to Hoboken, which is very much it's a tremendous town. And they were working like crazy. And then his son, Fortunato's son, came in and decided to make what they call a bottle club. Now, certainly that's something I don't want to be involved in. That's for people who come in, they buy a bottle, they sit and they bullshit the rest of their life. So that wasn't me. So I just, Louis Baldoneri, he's very funny. I'll never remember it. We had a little trouble that last day. We were into having entertainment in my club. A couple of people were singing, the Bronx Wanderers were there, and they were taking a picture of me, and Lou said to the owner of the place, get used to that picture, keep it because it's the last time you're going to see him here. And lo and behold, I have not been back there in a year and a half. So we closed Danny's Upstairs, you know, and it's sad. But
all the comedians were very excited to come out there for you, and they came out for you.
Yeah, even the legendary people like Jackie came out, and very, very notable comedians, and it made me feel real good that they thought that much of us. Yeah, we had them all.
There was a lot of excitement to come out to New Jersey, to Hoboken, to say everybody wanted to come to Danny's room, Danny's Upstairs.
It was called Danny's Upstairs. I invented that. Pretty good name, isn't it, babe?
It was very fitting because it was upstairs.
Downstairs. I said, well, you can't call, downstairs upstairs, but I was thinking, but then we went to the Gaslight.
On 14th and Matt DeMatt's place.
And Matt DeMatt's a good friend of my son Rick, and I love Matt DeMatt.
Yeah,
he's a great guy. And we tried to do it down there, but they had a problem with the landlord on the building itself. They wouldn't allow us to have signs indicating comedy here. Really? Now, look. That's where the cobblestones are. Yeah, that's the hottest place in New York. Pedestrian traffic is outrageous. Now, what do you have to have up when you have pedestrian traffic? Signs saying what's happening. Yeah. Couldn't have a sign. Crazy. So it became something that couldn't work. It wasn't a workable situation.
Do you remember the days when we used to hang out at Columbus Cafe?
It's cool, this guy. Look, look at my man. Look at him. He's all stretched. Look at you. You look great.
You too, man. You too. You look amazing.
Man. You know, God knows, who knows more about it than you do?
Well, my book's coming out this year on the 35-year history of the comic strip. 35 years with Jerry Seinfeld and Louis Black, Susie Essman, George Wallace. All of them came out.
Susie's one of my best. Louis I love. And, I go a little further back, too. I go with guys like,
Robert Klein.
Robert, what I used to do when I was bouncing with Robert Klein? Yeah. Robert Klein, I didn't know Bob. I was one of the bouncers there, but I would sing behind him. Do you remember Buddy Mentia?
Yeah,
they would
Alto and Mentia.
I was one of the original Untouchables. Buddy Mentia, me, and Bobby Alto.
Oh, sure.
So Robert Klein would get up and he'd improvise songs. He would ask for some a sentence from the audience, and from that sentence he would come up with a song, and we would do doo-wop in back of him. Then one day, who walks in? Bette Midler. Now, I didn't know who the hell Bette Midler was, but Bette Midler would come in and she would sing, and Bud Friedman signed her. At the time, she was doing, what was she doing? The violin, the Jewish thing.
She was in the original.
Come on, open up, for Christ's sake. You got the information. Fiddler on the Roof. Yeah, she was doing Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway. I don't know who else she was, but my sister Rosebud came in. That's Michael Kay. He's my nephew, the kid, the Yankee voice.
Yeah, I know.
It's my sister.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And Rosebud came, his mother came, and I'll never forget saying to her, because it's brought back to me recently, that I said to Rosebud, you see that girl? Now, she wasn't the prettiest.
Meaning Bette Midler.
At that time, she's going to be a star. I said, what? It's going to be a star. But yeah, I said, that girl is a star. And look at her. Look
and like she fulfilled your prophecy. You remember the days of Columbus Cafe?
Well, Columbus Cafe. Well, let me tell you something about, very briefly, I'll tell you something about, I'm sitting down over here. I'm not dropping names, but they happen to be the guys that were there. Warren Beatty.
That's right.
Jack Nicholson. I'm sitting here. Sean Penn's sitting there. There's a bar. You look through the window, and a note comes over to the table that we're sitting at. Dustin Hoffman was there, too.
Right.
And a note is addressed, given to me. And it says, I'm dying to meet you. I'm sitting at the bar. So I'm looking around, I'm thinking, this thing is for me.
Right, yeah.
It was Jack Nicholson. The son of a bitch sent me the goddamn letter, making me think that I was the baddest one on the block. There's Dustin Hoffman, there's Sean Penn, there's Warren Beatty, and there's Jack, and he sent the note. But it was something.
That's something to.
You had to be there.
Well, in those days, there's never been a place like that in this city. I think that's when we first met, in the days of Columbus, in the mid-'80s. Yeah. That's how far back that place goes.
I miss that place immensely.
Paulie Herman and Charlie Herman, they ran that place?
And I saw Paulie recently, and we're trying to reestablish, because I wasted a lot of years in Hoboken. People thought, well, is Danny out of the business? But I'm pretty much by myself. I don't hang out, and I put myself in a category where I just like to see comedians get up and do and provide work for them and a space for them to play. And years are going by, and I'm forgetting about what I want to do. So now recently, the last year and a half, and well, we've been singing now for about 6 years. I got the 4 albums out. My recent
is amazing. What's your newest one?
The new one is called Bridges. It's with me and a rapper. It's a rapper called Hassan. Okay. And then we have Besame Mucho, which is a video on YouTube, which has 455,000 hits on it. Wow. So it's classic standard songs along with rap, so it's really the first time it's been done. The acting things are starting to explode, but I don't act unless it's something that I have to do. Do you follow me? I have no need to be in the screen. Right. But if someone comes up to me and says, this is a film that you have to, and I look at it and I say, oh, yes. For instance, Bobby and Sean the other day, they were in town. They're doing a movie called The Comedian. Jeffrey Ross wrote it. Yeah, oh, really? Okay. So we're all together reading together. So the idea is that they're going to offer me something. I don't know. It's probably the third lead. And the other picture is with, I don't know if you know Luc Besson. Are you familiar with him?
I know the name. I don't know him personally.
French director, and he did La Femme Nikita. And he's doing a new movie called Malavita. Him and Bobby De Niro, and I'm not quite sure who the woman is. So again, they called me, but I didn't go to that. But back in action, you know what I mean? Even if it's whatever
like nature
action, I don't give a shit. I'm not talking about money and things of that nature. I'm talking about letting people,
because you love it.
Well, letting people know that you're still alive. For Christ's sake, I don't want them to think I'm 110 years old. I'm a pretty-looking guy, ain't I? I'm not that.
You look fantastic. Where's John Gallagher? I wanted to see. Is he here? Is John Gallagher over here? Because we got a script. We got a script. Men of Violence. John Gallagher is amazing. And I was going to say, his movie, The Deli, is showing tonight. You're probably the only one in Hollywood who is not in The Deli.
I'm the only Italian American. He was
busy. He was the only one that was working.
Well, yeah. Do you know that I did, after being nominated for an Academy Award, the next year I came back to present. And the movie that I was talking about representing was Goodfellas. And there were 1 billion people watching. I went on the stage and I said, I'm the only Italian American in this country. That's not in this picture.
This is great that Danny's here tonight because, you know, we have a lot of young actors and filmmakers in the audience. So this is like masterclass.
That's a great inspiration.
I don't
It's a
know
great
what
inspiration.
I can only impart what I've been through, you know.
Exactly.
But wouldn't he be great for Men of Violence?
Oh my goodness, that's a terrific script that Jeffrey wrote. Yeah.
And it's my first non-comedy project, and you would be absolutely amazing for the head guy, wouldn't he be?
Underlying humor throughout, but yeah.
No, but John committed to directing it, and he loves the film. So,
Great.
so this is something we would want to send you. Isn't that interesting? That
Well,
Danny
we'll
would be
talk
here?
about it, of course.
Yeah,
Make
I'd
it
love
right
to.
here on the record.
It's so great to. I want to just ask you one last thing because I know that you've been doing a lot of charity work,
Yeah.
especially for pancreatic cancer. You've been doing a lot of promotional stuff, and I know that that's a cause that's near and dear to you.
Well, I lost my son Danny May 2 years ago,
2010.
and it's devastating. You know, Danny was one of the top stunt coordinators in the country, or in the world for that matter.
Absolutely.
And he did over 300 movies. And one day they come in, I'm rehearsing, and someone says, "I have to talk to your dad." It was my son Rick, and I said, "What?" He said, "Danny's been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer." And there was no yelling or anything. I was just numb. I became dead inside. And the next thing that dropped was I knew that my son had to go into the bedroom and tell his mother that Danny had it. And Danny died after being diagnosed about 5 months later. And it's very difficult to understand how something like that could happen because he was a beautiful physical specimen.
Yes, absolutely.
Played football, played baseball, good-looking kid, looked like his mother. And then it happened. And
But you took that and you turned it into something beautiful because now you do work helping to raise money.
I want to tell you, I shun upon doing those things. I don't like doing benefits and things of that nature because people get the idea that you're trying to self-aggrandize yourself. Do you know what I mean? It becomes more about you rather than the subject. So I know it's a crazy thing. I know if you get someone that's famous and comes in to help out a charity, that you're bringing attention to the charity. So that I can understand. But the part that I can't totally grasp is you're doing that because you are somewhat famous and people might be thinking. If
No,
it's one
but,
person
let me
thinking he's doing this for himself, that's what goes through my mind.
Let me
Now,
tell you that because you're a man of humility. Anyone of humility truly feels that way, that they're concerned that they're drawing attention to themselves for the wrong reason.
and I'm sure that many people have felt that way, but it does not help me.
Because you're so humble. I understand.
Well, what happened is they asked me at Lust Garden Foundation, which is doing more for pancreatic cancer than any other organization imaginable. And it's James Dolan. James Dolan is a man that owns Cablevision, and I don't even know the man. I think I brushed by him 2 or 3 times. But he's the man that continually foots the bill and never gets credit for what he's doing. So he formed the Lust Garden Foundation because at Madison Square Garden Cable Network, Lust Garden was his vice president. And his father, James Dolan's father, and Lust Garden were very close, and they loved each other. He died. He died at 50-something years old. So Lust Garden, that foundation is based on the guy who worked for Jim Dolan's father. They come to me and they ask me if I would get involved because my son died, and I'm saying, here they go. They're coming around, you know, they're looking for someone. So I had all mixed emotions. However, we had a conversation, and he said, would you, I said, I don't go to benefits. I can't even think about cancer. I can't talk about another person that has it. I don't want to see one that has it. I don't know how to deal with it. It shakes me up. But what I will do for you, if it's right, I'll do a PSA. Now, the PSA was only supposed to be verbal on the radio. It was something like, you know, I'm Danny Aiello, I'm an actor, I play tough guys, but my son Danny is the real tough guy. That's basically, and even he couldn't defeat pancreatic cancer. So they gave me the message, and I said, I can't do it. I can't go on the screen for the very reason I had mentioned before. But I asked Sandy, my wife, and I said, Sandy, what do you do? She said, are they going to show Danny on the screen? Now, keep in mind, Danny's a stunt man. He doubled me. He doubled major stars. And you never see who Danny is. You don't know who Danny is. So we sat down with Lust Garden and said, let me bookend it. Let me be saying the things that I'm saying, but I want my son right on my shoulder on the screen, reacting with his friends, stunt people, and there he was. So it wasn't about me. It was about me talking and about everyone knowing that that's Danny Aiello III, who you've never seen before, and I wanted them to see him now. So Sandy said, let's do that. And I said, all right. So they did. They ran it for about a year and a half. And it was the most awareness PSA that they've ever done. It created so much talk about, not because of me, but because of what we were showing on that screen. It created great awareness, and it's very helpful to
It's a wonderful thing that you did. You used your own celebrity in a good way, not out of ego, but out of humility to help a cause like that. So
Big
it's
to do
fantastic.
anything else. I don't know. I'm big, baby. Academy
very
Award,
big.
24 awards. You know that, don't you?
do know that,
Did you say that, John? Did you tell him?
I told the guy. I told him. You know what I'm saying?
Anyway, it's great.
I'm honored to see you. Man.
Thanks,
It's
John.
so great.
Thank
so
you.
great
Good
to
luck
see
with
you.
your
Thank you so much.